Teri Holland believes that everyone should realize what they're made of and that they should live the life that they deserve. Listen now to this fascinating discussion on today's show. Join me now, Reverend Dr. Michael Likey, on a journey towards oneness with our higher self and a life of being all that we can be. And welcome back, everybody, to our show. I'm very excited to have Teri Holland on this day. She has a background in NLP training, hypnotherapy, NLP coaching, timeline therapy, which is such a useful tool. She is also a speaker, performance coach, and motivator. And we're going to go to Teri right now. I'm thanking you so much. I'm so grateful to have you on, Teri. How are you this day?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. So, what we're going to do is get right into it, and I'm excited to find out what you have to offer for everybody. In other words, let's say somebody comes to you and they're already, I don't want to say an overachiever. They're one who has achieved something in their life, maybe a number of things, and it's just within reach. The next goal or goals, they can see it. They've done their homework. They don't have any major issues, we'll say, and they can almost taste it. So what would you say to them? What would you have to offer? And do you go extremes? In other words, do you also work with folks that are at the other end of the spectrum where they have low self-esteem and they need a bit of a boost? Let's start there.
Sure, yes, I do work with people on the other end of the spectrum who are struggling with low self-esteem and struggling to even get started towards reaching for anything in life. I do work with those people as well. My focus, however, is on high performance. So taking those people and turning them into high performers and high achievers. Now, for the person who is so close to achieving their goal that it's right there in front of them and they can taste it, often what happens at that point is the biggest challenge, the biggest obstacle will come up, and a person will want to quit. So we see this quite often, and we call it the universal challenge line. When you're so close to achieving what you want, and something happens, something comes up, and then bam, there's a challenge in your way, something to deter you, and you want to quit.
Yes.
It's like what Napoleon Hill talked about, 3 feet from gold.
Yes.
When you're that close to achieving it, and you want to stop. So that's a common thing. In fact, I say that the bigger the goal you have, the bigger the desire to achieve it, the bigger the challenge you're going to have to overcome to get it. Now, when we're in that place, when a person's in that spot where they're that close and they want to quit, it's easy to say, just keep going, just work through it, persevere. But when a person's in that moment, it's the hardest thing in the world, and every cell of their being is going to want to quit.
Yes.
So what I tell my clients is, when you have an obstacle come up, instead of getting scared, instead of wanting to run away, get really excited. Because it means that you're going somewhere, you're doing something.
Very good.
So
very,
if you
very good.
never want to achieve another, or never want to have another obstacle or challenge again, don't set goals.
Yes, very good. In what I do, I support emotionally a lot of folks through the use of gratitude and appreciation, and that kind of, if you believe in this sort of thing, and most of my clients do, it raises their vibration up to a certain level where they sort of come alive more, and they start counting their blessings, if you will, and it starts to almost be self-motivating. With hypnotherapy, I go into not past life stuff, because that tends to be informative, but more a form of entertainment. I know we won't get into that this show. A lot of people will agree and disagree with me on that, but I've brought people to life in between lives, soul regression, and also past life, and it gives them a good idea of who they are or why they were who they are and where to run with it. But I like to deal more or less with the present time and with what's going on, and really how, well, maybe their childhood and certain interactions in their environment has affected them and brought them up to now. And I'm convinced, and I know you're also a hypnotherapist, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist who works with folks to more or less heal those issues, or at least change the emotion around some of those things, or even eliminate emotional issues and just bring them into the black and white. So what do you do with a person as a coach, as a hypnotherapist, knowing NLP and being a teacher of NLP and etc.? What would you do with someone who's really skittish just generally in their life? Perhaps they had, we won't go into major traumas. We'll say the normal kind of, quote unquote, normal kind of traumas that a person goes through, deaths, births, marriages, etc., moves, and they haven't taken the time to really completely heal from these things, so they're a little bit skittish. I'll use the word skittish, but they're still ambitious. They haven't, those traumas haven't necessarily taken away their desire to achieve. Where would you take them? What approach would you take?
So I feel like you're talking about me, because that used to be me.
Oh.
Before I found this work. And so what I do with a client when they come in, and yeah, they're exactly like you said, they're skittish and they still want to achieve things, but they're just, they've been knocked down a few times by life. With those people, I do a personal breakthrough session most often. So that's taking them through a process, focused mainly on timeline therapy, and I incorporate hypnosis and I incorporate coaching tools in that, but it's mainly timeline therapy, which allows a person to access the root cause of a negative emotion or a limiting decision. So for a person to, if they're being skittish, like you said, there's a point in time where they decided to be that way.
Yes.
Or there's a point in time where they made a decision that they can't have what they want, or that it's too hard, or I shouldn't try anymore, something like that. So we find out what are the beliefs that are supporting their current behavior. We go back to the root cause of when did they decide to behave that way.
Yes.
And undo the decision at that point in their timeline. And what that does in their neurology is it breaks apart that neuro pathway. So they can no longer run the same pattern of behavior anymore. And then we create new connections where they can begin to behave the way they want to in a way that supports what they want to achieve.
Excellent, excellent. That so excites me, because I'm sure you've seen many breakthroughs. I've seen many breakthroughs with clients at various ends of the spectrum. What do you do? And I have to say, I'm not just saying this to be nice. I really enjoyed your website. It felt good to me as a graphic designer. It all seemed to work. And I had the impression too that with yourself in particular, that intuition plays somewhat of a role. So you're able to perhaps improvise in the quote unquote script that you're using or might use. I completely improvise now. In the old days when I started, I used numerous scripts, and it was so black and white. It was, I don't know, almost mechanical. It did the trick, but I found that going more with my intuition, and because things change even within a session, I'm sure you found that there'll be minor breakthroughs even during a session, and you probably can sense that maybe emotionally or energetically. Someone will smile suddenly where, perhaps they didn't before, and then you're guided perhaps to go in another direction. So it is with myself, and I'm so excited to have learned that you do use intuition to a greater degree in your work. So you have that basic balance of the black and white, if you will, science and intuition as well. What do you do when and you probably have had people at both ends of the spectrum who are just black and white signs or shades of gray, what I refer to as shades of gray only. And then I'll give you my feedback, my answers, how I dealt with this a long time ago in my career. What do you do? Obviously, with science, this is it is science based, it's psychology based, shouldn't be too far of a deviation. The only issue perhaps would be to explain to people about NLP or hypnotherapy when they come to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about...
Yeah, so I explain...
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, I explain the process, explain how the techniques work, not teaching it to them in a teaching perspective, but just so they can understand as a client of what's happening and how it works.
Excellent. Now, what about the shades of gray person? The person who comes to you and maybe they're a little bit superstitious, or if not superstitious, maybe they're into New Age, not New Thought, but New Age. I'm into New Thought, not New Age. New Agey stuff. And I noticed on your website, I believe it was your website, you use a pendulum. And I believe that's an excellent tool for accessing the higher mind or the subconscious and getting answers that lie in that unconscious or subconscious state. A lot of New Agers will feel, oh, it's spirit guides or whatever, and that's valid as well. It's whatever works, whatever your belief system is. There's no right or wrong to it as long as there's results and growth and healing. So what direction do you go when a shades of gray person, for lack of a better term, comes to you and maybe they're just into meditation, or maybe, and you probably see where I'm going with this about brainwave states being the same. What do you do? How do you handle those shades of gray folks?
In NLP we say respect the other person's model of the world. So whatever they bring to me is correct.
Perfect.
So if they believe, like for example, if we're doing pendulum work and they believe that it's some outside force controlling the pendulum and they want to believe that they've tapped into something else, great.
Mm-hmm.
If they believe that that's their unconscious mind moving the pendulum through micromuscle movements, great.
Perfect.
That's also correct. So whatever information the client gives me is correct, and I adapt my communication and how I work with them to match their model of the world, to make it accessible for them.
Perfect. And that's so crucial, because we have to go with their needs. We have to go with their belief systems, and kind of guide them, logging into wherever they're coming from and kind of running with that. Quite a few years ago, maybe too many years that I want to remember, I was getting my degrees, my first degrees. I think it was the Bachelor of Metaphysics, and before I had the Masters and the doctorates, the various doctorates. And I was doing only hypnotherapy at the time. And one of my clients who had come to me for other things, she came to me and she goes, well, I know hypnotherapy works and you're accessing the unconscious mind and all this sort of thing, but what about meditation? Will meditation do the same thing for me? And it was at that point I actually began to improvise. We sat actually on the floor of my office, and I started doing what I was guided to do, if you will, with nothing. It sounds weird when I say with nothing in my head. There's usually nothing in my head anyway, but with no preconceived ideas or biases, etc. I led her into altered state using apparent meditation, which I've been into since I was, I guess, 29. You don't want to know how old I am now. And I have found them to be equally effective, but the trappings are different, if you will, the physical trappings, and you may or may not agree with me on this, the energy behind hypnotherapy, or what I like to call self-hypnosis. That way people take responsibility for hypnotizing themselves, if you will, versus meditation. And sure enough, a lot of my clients, they just like the energy behind meditation or hypnotherapy. Can I get some feedback from you about this?
Yeah, again, it's really just respecting the client's model. So if that's what they prefer, then I work with them within that. It's having behavioral flexibility on my part to adapt to whatever the client needs to get their
Yes.
desired result. At the end of the day, I'm not worried about what tool we use so much as do they get the outcome they want.
Exactly. Exactly. Very, very good. The tools I liken to bullets in our arsenal, if you will, or bullets in our belt, or tool belt, if you will. And intuitively or intellectually, you just go for it. You just pull out what you believe is needed or what the client seems to respond to best based on their beliefs, etc. I want to leave people who are listening to this, because a lot of people, and I'm sure you found this as well in your practice, a lot of people, they want a magic wand. They want you or me to tap them on the head and go, there, you're cured. Now you've got self-esteem, you've got self-confidence. Now you've got that motivation where before you were hesitant or skittish or whatever. And they're not appalled, but they're taken aback when I give them homework, because many times if I feel they need a little bit of a kick in the rear, I'll give them things to do, exercises, etc., for the next time they come back. And so it is with folks listening in. A lot of folks just want something. They just want to feel good. And that's very short term. That's not long lasting. To feel good is a temporary solution. To be, for lack of a better term, cured or healed or self-healed, I like to use that term more, and then truly move forward in your life is really where we're at, is what we want to achieve. So there's not a pat answer, a pat solution, or a pat trick, if you will, that suddenly a light will turn on and the person will be running, they'll be achieving left and right. But this being said, I was kind of guided to ask you to share with our listeners and viewers today something that somebody can take away with. Anyone listening to this today, something, be it a meditation technique, a self-hypnosis technique, a saying while they're in semi-altered state, something. What would you recommend that could lead towards them feeling better and perhaps eventual transformation?
So in NLP, we do have a couple quick fixes, which are, they can be longer lasting or they could be temporary. It really depends on the person. But one of the ones I like to teach quickly is how to change your state. So when people say, I want to feel motivated, for example, well, you can feel motivated anytime you choose to feel motivated. And it's teaching people how to do that, how to motivate themselves in an instant. Now, is this going to be a long-lasting, overriding motivation, and are all their problems going to disappear? No, but if it gets them through the moment where they're able to do the thing they need to do in the moment to get through, it's beneficial. So the way we do it is any state you've ever experienced, and everyone has experienced times in their life where they felt motivated or they felt confident or they were able to learn something easily. If you can go back into that memory to the time you felt that, you can access that feeling. You light up that neurology again so you feel the way you want to feel.
Yes.
So I'll walk you through the process. So it's like this. If you recall a time where you felt totally motivated, and as you recall that time, go right back to that time, drop into your body, see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feeling of being totally motivated. And as a person does that, and if they do that multiple times, recalling different times they're motivated, they're going to access a greater neural network of that feeling of motivation. And that's how someone can change their state in an instant. Now, it's a quick fix, but if you do that consistently over time, you are retraining your mind and your neurology to access that feeling more frequently.
Perfect.
So the more you do it, the more motivated you find yourself becoming. Not only that, but it's putting a person in charge of their state. And when people start to realize that I'm in charge of how I feel, they realize there's no reason to feel bad, because at any moment I can choose to feel something different instead.
Very good. Very good. That's so exciting. We're going to pause briefly. We're going to do a bit of a promo and a meditation. Just hang on and we'll be back in a few minutes. Don't you dare go away. Listen and watch Fridays to my podcasts and webcasts on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Spreaker Radio, Blog Talk Radio, Anchor FM, Facebook, YouTube, and Stitcher. Right here, right now, we become aware of this endless field of love energy in which we reside. We are one and the same with it, individualized expressions of the one, which we are extensions of. As we breathe, so does love breathe. As we live, so does love live. As we laugh, create, contribute, multiply, so too does love laugh, create, contribute, and multiply. Because love is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and is always expanding, so too are we expanding. For love needs us to expand and to create, to express, and to be all that it can be. We affirm and we declare right here and right now in this energy of love that we are already all that is great. We all are already all that is eternal and good, because that is what we are allowing to be born through us as us. We are already perfection, continually blossoming through us as us, and it feels good. It feels great. As above, so below. We give thanks for this word, knowing that it is law and is already so in the mind of the universe. We release the word in gratitude and appreciation, letting it be so now and unto forevermore. And so it is. And so it is. Amen. 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 Expand your consciousness and awareness with my more than 40 paperback books of a self-help, mystical, new thought, and metaphysical nature, available from Amazon. Also available in Kindle format. And we're back. Thank you so much for joining us this day. And Teri Holland, I can't say enough about you. I'm glad. I don't know where I first saw you, whether it was on LinkedIn or some social media platform. But let's say folks want to get in touch with you. How can they do that? Where can they reach you besides your website?
The two places I hang out the most on social media are probably Instagram and Facebook. So those are the easiest ways to connect with me. And on Instagram, it's just Teri Holland. And on Facebook, it's Teri Holland Coaching. So either of those, and I'm on them frequently, so very easy to access.
Excellent. And for those who are more website inclined, got to check out Teri's website. It's www. I'm going to spell it out for them because they might think there's two R's and a Y. It's actually TeriHolland, Teri Holland, one word, all lowercase, .ca. And Teri, I want to thank you once again for joining us this day and for helping us to kick off my 12th season of doing the podcast. We've corrupted many minds thanks to this podcast. And I wish you all the best. Thanks for joining us this day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And most of all, I want to thank all of you out there for keeping us tuned in and listening to us. I hope we've added a little something to your life today. We're here every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, peace and richest blessings. Join me now, Reverend Dr. Michael Likey, on a journey towards oneness with our higher self and a life of being all that we can be